So, welcome to another episode of The Marketer's Edge, a series designed to share a senior level marketing perspective about marketer challenges, opportunities, and agency relationships. Our goal is to help marketers and agencies learn from other marketers across different industries. Today, we're talking with Tori Bogner, the recently promoted Senior Vice President of Marketing for Signature Bank of Arkansas, based out of Fayetteville, Arkansas. Tori, thanks so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Mark. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Absolutely, yeah, and congrats again on the recent promotion. That's fantastic.
Thank you. We had a big year last year, so I'm
That's
appreciative that
great.
the hard work was recognized.
Love hearing that. So I've got a small handful of questions for you, but before we do that, can you maybe tell me a little bit about Signature Bank of Arkansas, what you do for the organization? I'd like our listeners to know what kind of company your bank is and what you do
Mhm.
for them.
Sure. So it's easy to think of a bank and think that, everybody's just looking for somewhere to put their money, right? So one of the first challenges I had when I came to the bank was to figure out who we are. So it was really fun. So who we are a bank who has been put together to really serve small businesses. We're not a completely commercial bank. We're more for the community mindset of you've got a lot of small business owners, so you can take care of the business, you can take care of the owner and all of their personal banking, you can serve all of their employees. So, truly a community bank centered around the small business owner.
That's great.
Northwest Arkansas is a very interesting place where we're headquartered. There's a few small businesses around here you might have heard of: Walmart, JB Hunt, Tyson Foods. And really, in the late 90s, early 2000s, our area experienced a big boom because Walmart began to require that all of the vendors that work with them have an office and a presence here. So the number of small businesses in this area just completely compounded within those couple of years. So we found our sweet spot. When I interviewed here at the bank, I told them I'm not really sure if I'm the right person for you. I'm a business to business person. I'm really not interested in selling debit cards to everyone on the street. And they're like, oh no, that's not what we want you to do. So it's been a fun couple of years, and I'm really enjoying it.
That's great. That's great. No, you've got a wide range of experiences. Just looking at your profile, from political work to construction industry work, education work. You've done some recruiting work, and I'm curious how this job at Signature is different from all of these other jobs. Are there some really unique challenges that you've had to deal with as a marketer that you haven't had to experience in other positions?
It's really interesting. A lot of people, I think, start in marketing and maybe move into a business development role. They want to get out from behind the desk and go be out and about. I did the opposite, and I started more on the outside of business development and capitalized on the energy one has in their early 20s, and found myself behind the desk when it was time to relax a little bit. Um, in all of the roles that I had prior to working at the bank, you had a very specific need for a very specific market. Whereas here
Right.
at the bank, everyone needs a bank account. Whereas not everyone needed to build a new building, not everyone was looking for a new job, not everyone was looking for $1 million opportunity to give a gift to their institution of higher education. So it's been really interesting to pull from the experiences I've had in those different industries to be able to think like not a banker and put myself back in those shoes as we look at reaching out to small businesses who maybe are in the construction industry or in the technology industry and see what their needs might be and how we can tailor our products that are for everyone specifically to them.
Right, right. That's kind of cool. Yeah, I was going to ask you next what some of the more important things that you've learned from all these different jobs and different industries that you feel like you've successfully applied at Signature.
It's mostly to not forget that there's an individual behind every business, behind every decision, and behind every deal. There's the old saying that you shouldn't judge another person for not what their day is, something along that lines. And
Hmm.
you know, I think Nancy Pelosi is pretty famous for a morning clip where she walked up and said, "Well, I'd say good morning, but it's obviously not one." That day was somebody's wedding anniversary, and it was somebody's birthday, and it was, the day that somebody got the news that they no longer have cancer. So you just got to remember the personal element behind all the business deals. And I think as a community bank, that's really important for our
Yeah.
organization.
Yeah, that's great perspective. I would imagine too often people kind of get lost in the business of doing business and don't
Mhm.
think about what what's behind that the four walls of that education facility or whatever it
Mhm.
might be. So that's great perspective that you've pulled from the variety of different things you've worked with over the years. So I noticed that you started its signature in 2005, so not that long ago. I mean, you've been there a while. And on the bank's LinkedIn page, it talks about how the bank was started by a team of well-respected and experienced local bankers who had a dream of building a bank where decisions were made locally and in the best interest of not only the bank but customers and team members as well. I'm just curious: do you feel like there was a real void in the banking industry that Signature is now successfully filled?
So I kind of teed this question up with my explanation about what Northwest Arkansas is like and our history with Walmart and everyone coming here. We kind of went from that small town community to business booming. And all of a sudden, you've got people who are having to call back to Milwaukee to get a decision made. They're having to call to Orlando to get a decision made. And locally here with some of the banks, you may have to call down to Pine Bluff or to Little Rock to get a decision made. So the unique structure that we've put together here at Signature is that we have put in every market we serve, we only have one bank, and that bank has a market president who is empowered to make decisions locally. I would compare it to if you have a doctor in the family. You can text that doctor on Christmas Eve and say, "My kid's running a fever. Can you call me in so and so?" And you can get it because your doctor knows you, they know your kid, and they know how to take care of you. And the same should apply to your banker. You should know your banker should know you. And so you can call, tell them what's going on, and get your service handled and taken care of instead
Right.
of having us call back and say, well, I'm going to have to call up to Fayetteville and see what Fayetteville thinks about it.
Sure.
Our Jonesboro president, our Harrison president, anybody is empowered to make those decisions to serve the people that they know in their community. So that's kind of the void that we were trying to fill. Is
That's
as
great.
things got more corporate for more people, we wanted to be less corporate.
Got it. So the market was fairly saturated with bigger banks, or just banks you think that really didn't sort of carry that same philosophy?
I think more just that didn't carry the same philosophy.
Got it.
We've got a bank around here that carries about 50% of the market share.
Okay.
And then there's quite a few of us who sprinkle in with more of the community banking aspect. And everybody offers something a little bit different. And so we just try to be the one that you don't have to call to the headquarters to get your decision made, that you can
Right.
walk in and handle all your business same day.
I'm curious, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced in trying to convince consumers, potential banking customers, that what you had was different and better?
We really focus on the personal relationship portion of advertising. We obviously do some print advertising and some radio. You do the things and you get out on the media, but the challenge has been more making sure that we're putting our bankers in the right positions, in the right places, supporting the right causes to where they're in front of the people they need to be in front of to have that
Right.
conversation face to face. So sometimes it's more of a sales training challenge than an understanding challenge, because once you sit down with someone and you have that conversation, it's easy, but it's making sure that everyone's in the right place to meet the people to have the conversation.
Got it. So been a real active push to try and get the bank out into the community. It
Hmm.
sounds like
Hmm.
that's
So it's
great.
really it's interesting when we interview and hire. It's almost more of a personality fit than it is a knowledge fit.
Okay.
People is the art, banking is the science. We can teach you the science. Do you have the
Right.
art of the personality that is confident in going out and getting new business?
Got it. I'm curious. It sounds like maybe um, public relations, does it play a big role in the marketing of the bank?
More so in the past year and a half, I would say.
Okay.
I know you've got a question later on about Banco C, so I
Hmm.
won't jump ahead, but PR has definitely played a large role, an even larger
Okay.
role the past year than it has ever
Okay.
before.
Yeah, and so speaking of that, I saw on the bank site that the bank started a new bank offering called Banco C, Arkansas's first dedicated bilingual banking experience, and just found that really interesting. I'm curious as to why that offering was created and
Mhm.
what was missing in the market that Banco C addresses.
So if my CEO Gary was sitting here with us, he would tell you a story that he saw happen where an individual was standing at the teller line and translating for a whole line of customers who were coming to get their paychecks cashed.
Mm.
And at first, you think how great someone is helping these folks who don't speak English get their checks cashed. Well, come to find out, the individual who was translating was charging a fee to each person who was getting their
Oh,
paycheck cashed just
oh my
to sit
gosh.
there and translate for them.
Oh my.
And so, that broke his heart, and he hated seeing that was happening.
Yeah.
And we've got, I want to say the number is about 38% of our population is from Hispanic or Latino descent in our area. And so it's not uncommon to have a teller or a retail banker who speaks Spanish and English. So you can get your check cashed without having to worry about the translator charging a fee. But we really wanted to go above and beyond that. Because if you needed anything other than a check cashed or to deposit or withdraw something, then you need to talk to a lender or a business banker. Then that teller was having to come with you and translate with the banker. So we kind of dreamed up the scenario where you could walk into a bank and take care of anything you need to do in the language you prefer to speak. So we assimilated a group of bankers who all are bilingual, mortgage lender, commercial lender, business banker, tellers. And
Hmm.
they can handle anything you need to do in your language. That way you're not having to
That's
worry about,
fantastic.
is this being translated correctly? Can I trust the person who's translating for me? There's still some work to do on the documentation side. That's been a big
Okay.
challenge for us because it's, as far as we can tell, never truly been done to the extent that we're doing it before.
Yeah,
If
that's
anyone knows
great.
any differently, I would love to see your documents.
Yeah, right there you
um,
go.
there are
Send them to
there's
Brian.
certain regulatory documents that we have to work with
Right,
that can't be translated. So we have to have that conversation, build that
right.
relationship, and build that trust so that we can show them this is what's being said in this document. And
So do
trust me,
you
I'm your banker here to take care of you.
so do you have a separate marketing plan supporting Bank OC?
Yes and no.
Okay.
We were very, very intentional when we named Banco C. And if you've seen the logo, it's the same S that we have for signature.
Got
And
it.
how it kind of came about, we've got wallpaper here at the bank that's got the signature logo on it. And as we were talking, I had said it has to start with an S. I don't want it to end with an O because it doesn't need to be Banco something O. And someone said C, and I just slapped the wall because the first two letters of signature are S and I. It's like it's perfect. It was meant to be. So it all falls within our same branding so that we can
Yeah,
keep
that's
that family of branding and our colors and our look and feel the same for everyone. But those consumers are in a different place than the signature consumers are more often than not. So it's just more of where we're advertising and how we're going about finding those customers.
and just a little bit off script, but did you guys have to do a lot of like focus group research to really sort of nail down some of the positioning and branding and things like that?
If you call four people sitting in an office a focus group,
Nice.
I was funny because I had pretty well limited. I had three criteria, and I can't remember what the third one was anymore. It had to start with S, couldn't end in O, and there was something else. And we have a member of our board who is a very active member of the Hispanic community here in Northwest
Okay.
Arkansas. And his company kind of serves as a consultant to larger companies who want to be more involved in the diversity scene.
Yep.
So their team was a great resource for us, and they had come up with a few names, and he had come in with a list. And as I was saying, it has to start with S, and he was marking things off, and I was like, can't end in
Nice.
O, and he was marking things off. So he's like, well,
Nice.
that kind of takes us down to 3 options.
There you go. There you go. How's it doing so far?
It's doing great. They
Yeah,
crushed
that's
their
great.
goal for the first year.
That's
We
excellent.
opened September 23rd, 2022. I think that date will be ingrained in my head forever. And their goal, they had a goal they had to meet by the end of the year, and they crushed it. So they're looking forward
Great.
to crushing an even bigger goal this year.
Cool.
Um,
That's awesome.
the
Very cool.
community response has just been incredible. We feel
Has
very,
it?
very lucky to be so supported. And,
Yeah.
we just hope
Yeah.
that other people kind of copy our idea, because you can never do too much good for the community.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's great. It shows a real compassion for the community, to be able to do something like that and, really, I'm sure satisfy a big unmet need, which is
Mhm.
fantastic.
Where our
So
tagline is community banking at its best, and we didn't feel like we could keep saying that if we had 38% of the community that wasn't being
yeah,
served.
yeah, no kidding, no kidding. So I've got to ask you, looking at your profile, I saw that you were born and raised on a rice farm.
I was.
So can you tell me a little bit about that experience and maybe how it's influenced you personally and professionally throughout your life?
Sure. Yes, born and bred in Weiner, Arkansas. It's a very special place. You learn. Let me back up. My dad put me to work on the farm. Didn't just grow up there. I drove tractors, I dug ditches, I put in spills. I was out there in the heat. Um, so that one gave me a real appreciation for what it was going to mean to go to college and get an education and be able to have a good job one day and not have to go out and labor in the field. I think that
Right.
was a very intentional mark from him to make sure that I had that understanding. But what was really interesting is we have my dad's right hand man. His name is Martin, and he and his family moved up from Mexico when I was in junior high ish. And about the time that I was going through my first Spanish classes in high school is when I was putting in spills on the farm with Martin's wife, Gloria. And as I was learning Spanish, she was needing to learn English so that she could check out at the grocery store at Walmart and go to the bank. All these things that they needed to do on a daily basis. She just needed
Nice.
basic numbers, days of the week, the same things that I was learning in Spanish 1.
That's awesome.
So it's really kind of come full circle in watching customers come into Banco C and see the excitement on their face when they can communicate with someone and not have to point and try to do Google Translate. It reminds me of sitting in the field in the 98-degree heat with Gloria with shovels in our hands going through our colors and our days of the week.
That's fantastic. What a great experience.
Yeah.
So is the rice farm still in the family?
It is. It is. I'll never be able to convince my dad to retire. He was born to be a farmer, and he'll do it till
Good
the
for
very end.
good for him. Good for him. That's great. So just a couple last questions. Curious, do you currently work with any marketing agencies?
I do. I have worked
Okay.
with 2 since I came to the bank.
Okay.
Um,
And I'm curious, what do you have them most often helping you do?
I have outsourced most of our graphic design to them. I
Okay.
have a coordinator on my team. She handles all of our social media, but all of our advertising, all of our internal documents, brochures, posters, all of those kinds of things, they help us with. They're doing my digital advertising, my Google ads, my targeting and retargeting. And really, they're just a great trusted partner. We sit down for about an hour and a half once a month And I just tell them everything that's going on and get their ideas and their feedback. They've helped me reshape our website and consolidate some of our text and make sure that everything sounds good and looks good. Couldn't be happier with them.
That's
I've gotten
great.
very, very lucky because we've
That's
had
great. How long have you been with them?
2020, about midsummer.
Okay, that's great.
It
That's
was
great.
very
What,
interesting. No, it wasn't
yeah.
2020. It was 2021. I was expecting my first child, and I did not have a coordinator on my team at the time. And our bank was getting ready to go through a core conversion, which is where the platform that runs the bank gets switched to a different platform,
Okay.
and everything had to
Okay.
move, and the number of moving pieces and communication pieces that had to go out to customers was staggering. And
I'm
I
sure.
was looking for help. I was looking for someone that I knew I could lean on in those months that I was going to be away, to be able to drive the ship should the ship go astray.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I'm curious. You said you have some work you do in house as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I'm curious. What do you see, just generally speaking, the advantages of in house support versus agency support?
In-house is a little easier to get things done immediately. You always feel bad calling on an agency and saying, "Hey, I need you to drop what you're doing and get this done," because you don't know what they've got going on with other clients and customers. Whereas internal, you can say, "Hey, this is top priority. We got to drop everything else and we got to get this done in the next hour." Um,
Right, right. Are there skill sets that you feel agencies can bring to a marketer's table that maybe are a little bit more difficult to manage in house?
yes, for sure. Especially with how much social media changes and how the algorithms are sitting and
Right.
everything that changes with Google ads. It's too nice to be able to lean on someone who's a subject matter expert than to try to hire a subject matter expert in everything, especially as
That's
a
true.
smaller to mid-sized business.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah,
Yep.
we're a team of
And
two, whereas to
say
have
that again.
all
Sorry.
we're a team of two here at the bank, whereas
Okay.
to
Got it.
have all of that subject matter expertise, we'd have to have a team of 10.
Yep. So I'm curious, any advice you'd give to a marketer, banking or otherwise, that's looking to bring a new agency on board?
I would say don't just interview for their capability, but interview for their personalities. It's basically an extension of your team. So, how well do they fit with you? Do you fit with them? Are you going to communicate well? It's when I worked in the construction industry, I worked on the sales side, and we were doing presentations, and it was one of the things that I would always tell the potential customer was, you're not going to love us every day. There are going to be problems. So you're interviewing for who you want to deal with the problems with and who you want to have tough conversations with. And I think it's the same thing for an agency. You got to be brutally honest, and you're not going to hurt their feelings. And if they're going to get their feelings hurt, they're probably not the right agency for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. And so my last question is, if an agency were trying to knock down your door and win business from you, what advice would you give that agency?
I would say don't forget why individuals get into marketing in the first place. Everybody likes being part of the creative process and
Mhm.
bouncing ideas off of each other. So don't forget to include the customer in the creative process.
That's great advice, because oftentimes agencies, well, I shouldn't say oftentimes, but at times
Mhm.
agencies aren't as collaborative as they
Mhm.
probably should be. And so yeah, I mean, do you uh, offer that advice based on experience that you've had, and if so, what kind of experiences have you had that sort of lend themselves to making that sort of suggestion?
Sure. So I've had two agencies, and one was more of a put your order in and we'll spit something out. Whereas who I have now, we sit down, we collaborate, we bounce ideas off of each other in that monthly meeting. So that when the time comes that I do need something quickly, I had to call him yesterday and was like, "Hey, I missed an ad deadline. It was Sunday. I didn't even look at it on the calendar. I just give me something. I don't care. We've got to get it out there." So that when you do have the opportunity that arises where you just have to spit something out, it's okay, instead of,
Right.
oh, every single thing we're doing, I don't get to be part of the fun. Everybody wants to be a part of the fun a little bit.
Yep. Yep. No, that's great. That's great advice. And I think that agencies, need to think in those terms. And marketers certainly like to be involved
Hmm.
in the process of the plans and the ideas that are going to support their business. So I think that's great counsel.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Tori, I really appreciate you making the time today, and it's been a really interesting and insightful conversation. You've got a lot of great experience that you've brought to the Signature Bank of Arkansas, and you guys are doing some really interesting things in terms of the way you embed yourself in the community and the way support the community compassionately. Um, and then also personally with the experience growing up on a rice farm, you don't find many bankers that necessarily had that kind of a foundation. So I really appreciate you making the time and sharing your experiences with all the marketers that will be listening today. And you have a great rest of your day. And congratulations again on the promotion.
Well, thank you, Mark. It's an honor to be included in the podcast and in the presentation and be able to share a little bit. Arkansas is a great place. Would encourage anybody to come give us a visit anytime.
All right. Thanks so much. You take care.
Have a good one, Mark.
Thanks.